This Saturday, May 16th, 2026, we have a new supermoon in Taurus at 25 degrees, where Uranus has just left after a 7-year transit that will take 84 years to happen again. Because the moon moves very quickly, we can give the moon at least an orb of 8 degrees. And what that means is that even though the new moon is at 25, almost 26 Taurus, it's essentially conjunct that Uranus that just moved into Gemini at 0 degrees and is applying to a conjunction. So there is a sudden eruptive force that goes along with the archetypes of healing associated with this moon. It is especially powerful. It's the only Taurus new supermoon of the year. And for several reasons I'm about to get into, it is the one that I am most excited for. While there may be some intensity to this new moon on the global stage, it is an incredibly profound moment for picking our power back up and connecting to the healer within us and transforming the worst of the things that we've survived, like the kinds of things we don't talk about. And maybe very few, if anyone, really actually knows about our histories, and transmuting that into the kind of energy that can make a tremendous difference in the lives of other people. In this video, I'll give you 3 concrete tools for planting truly manifestation-oriented seeds that will unfold over the next 6 months onto who you were actually born here to be. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist and astrologer making videos on usable practices that support the ways that transits are activating our karmic destiny in our lives. Be sure and check out my free resources below. They're linked on my website, and I do have a few spots left in May. My booking links are now live. So here's what to know about this new moon. It is both conjunct Ceres, which I've been talking about in the last couple of videos, which is part of the mythic story of loss and grief, and also her own, as a mother, her own underworld journey, as well as that as her daughter's Persephone. But the new moon is also conjunct the fixed star Algol. Well, mythology was not actually the basis of astrology or really part of it. The fixed stars were. And although you will hear Algol being talked about as the Medusa star associated with losing one's head, decapitation, and tremendous pain and injury, it is important to remember that there's a not often talked about side of that story. And that is that Algol is part of the Perseus constellation. And the story of Perseus slaying the Gorgon Medusa's head, who was violated and assaulted and then basically penalized and punished in her victimhood by being turned into a Gorgon and then killed. That star in that constellation itself is binary, and it actually eclipses itself every 3 days. So it was seen potentially very powerful and magical before people understood that every 8 hours it disappears because of that cycle. So it appears to die and be reborn all of the time. Similarly to as when we suffer tremendous pain, loss, might be the loss of innocence or naivete or the loss of freedom or agency, the version of us that existed before those difficult challenges happened truly dies. And this parallels with the fact that at the time of this new moon, conjunct Algol and Ceres, Mars, which severs and cuts and also creates action and initiation in the chart, is conjunct Chiron, which is, of course, as you know, is usually described as the wounded healer. But he's really more about the archetype of healing than wounding. And the reason for this is that despite his abandonment, despite his injuries, what we can assume are attachment injuries and burdens due to his early abandonment, the archetype is about having turned those early ruptures into a divine mission for his life to heal others and to share what he learned about healing himself, to teach, to learn around esoteric knowledge and complementary medicine, and to persevere. So this strong Mars in domicile at the time of the new moon, I predict, will really be a turning point for so many people, because Mars joined with Chiron in Aries is also co-present with Saturn, Pallas Athena, Neptune, and Vesta. They're all still in Aries right now, coming off that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees in February earlier this year. So what that means is that these new moons and subsequent transits following the recent Aries new moon carry with them this really never seen before in thousands of years initiator, new beginnings symbolism around the drive and motivation, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, to be a healer in the world, to be of service and sever from our old identity wounds. I don't know as much as that other person. I haven't gotten enough degrees or studied long enough, or I didn't go to school, or I'm not enough of an expert, or what would I possibly have to offer other people? With Mars conjunct Chiron, the ruler of the ruler of this new moon, Venus, who has a nice little mutual reception with Mercury currently in Taurus and Venus newly in Gemini, sextiling that Chiron. So there is, I believe, a more friendly and benevolent archetypal symbolism around the Venusian principles around beauty, healing, and connection, as well as that Mars fuel to motivate us to do something different. Chiron was not typical. He was a centaur. He was different. He was ostracized. He was on the outside. And I actually did consider titling this thumbnail, Let Your Freak Flag Fly, which I may or may not end up using and change. But that's a very appropriate euphemism, and it's always actually been one of my favorites. I personally have a very strong Chiron in my chart. It's conjunct Jupiter in the first house in Aries, and although I think it's pretty ubiquitous to feel like an outsider, a weirdo, especially those of us who are interested in occult studies, right now, literally the feeling of being on the outside, not fitting, not being a group person, that's something I've lived with my whole life, and I bet you have too. But this year, Uranus moving into Gemini, that awakening, liberation, course correction energy that's just conjoined Venus in Gemini before she moved on, is all the more supportive of remembering our capacity to inspire healing and transformation in others. And that is almost always a result of our own healing journey and triumph beyond our own traumas. We really can't take other people places we have not gone ourselves. And that is not to say that bad things happen to us. It's all happens for reasons we can help others, or that we created that, or we should see the silver lining in all the horrible things that have happened to us. That's really not what I'm trying to say. And philosophically, of course, there's lots of arguments around that. But I do believe some of us have souls that chose lifetimes with many diverse challenges so that we could develop the capacity for deep empathy, for tremendous compassion, and thus be able to really, truly hold a deep presence and space for others who've experienced pain, and the kind of pain that makes them feel really deeply isolated. Pallas Athena is also a healer of sorts in her ability to see beyond the veil. She has a mystic symbolism. She's not just about strategy for war. And she's also sextiling Pluto. So this is emblematic of picking our power back up and embodying that Taurus, very material, sensual, embodied, even, material resources archetype back up. Taurus can be a very healing energy. And healing and being a healer, what that means to you or what that looks like, could be all over the map. And to be honest, I haven't become totally comfortable with the phrase being a healer, because it's something I have been called on and off my whole life. And I've never been comfortable with that, because I feel like that is a very colonized, capitalist, hierarchical framework. And a lot of damage has been done, and currently, obviously continues to be done by people that call themselves healers. And it took me a long time to realize that people who have incredible gifts, psychic intuition, maybe they can see spirits, they have incredible abilities of that nature. They have the kinds of intuitive gifts that I used to see as very different than mine. For a very long time, I had this naive belief that those people were somehow, they must be very spiritual and good with a strong ethical and moral compass. Like, for some reason, I associated those spiritual gifts and these other kind of qualities of integrity to go hand in hand. And it might be obvious to you, but it took me a really long time, I think because I so envied and admired people with different gifts than mine, to really accept the fact that sometimes people with the most interesting, powerful, fascinating, psychic, intuitive gifts can actually have very low capacities for self-reflection, for insight, for empathy and compassion, and even awareness of others. They can be highly exploitive. You look at any cult, a lot of social media influencers, leaders, religious leaders, you know it, you know what I'm talking about. They can be very charismatic and even helpful. I could name some very popular self-help gurus out there that where I happen to know people in their personal life, and just energetically when I see them and listen to them, I can tell that I wouldn't want to get within 10 feet of them in an actual relationship, but they might have said things or taught things from a place of giftedness and even connection to divine source that has helped millions of people. It doesn't mean, however, that they're without their deep injuries that have not been resolved. It can still very much be projected onto others. I think we have to be careful with the label of healer, because we can easily pedestalize people, including ourselves, and not let ourselves off the hook for being like a normal person with an ego. So the opportunity here is to not get on our high horse or necessarily claim that we're healers, but to recognize that wherever we've survived, wherever we are slowly but surely learning to love ourselves, forgive ourselves and others, is indeed a very powerful healing force in the world. And it provides us a commanding presence to offer other people with humility. And when we are practicing healing, which is to me loving and accepting our bodies, minds, and spirits, embodying that healing is how we heal other people. And offering healing to other people is so much more about how we live our lives than what we actually do to or for another person. If you go out dancing and you take up space and you do your best to forget about what you look like, you are providing healing energy in the room. If you silently send a prayer to people in a car accident that you're passing, you are living as a healer. If you ask yourself, how can I bring more love? This is a question I often ask, especially when I'm bitter or angry or feeling judgmental. How can I bring more love to this situation right now? Or maybe we're feeling like we're wishing ill will on someone. That's a great time to ask that question. And we decide to offer them a blessing instead of a curse. We're being healers in the world. And like the star Algol conjunct this new moon that eclipses itself every 3 days, in many ways the healing journey is about going dark and ruminating, feeling sorry for ourselves, getting lost in judgment and bitterness. I know I'm always working on noticing the judgments I have about myself and other people and my choices and other people's choices. And then we rebirth ourselves in the next moment and the next right now moment and the next new moment. We can see this Medusa mythology as a regenerative story, similar to Chiron. And if you have regenerated yourself in some way, no matter how long it took, you are a healer. You are meant to share and embody that love you're learning to have for yourself and the courage it's taken for you to do that. That is a powerful, powerful healing force in the world. So your meditation for this Taurus new moon is, where could I allow myself to shine more brightly? Your mirror work for the Taurus new moon on the 16th is, I believe you can pick your power back up. And the mantra for the transit is, I am willing to heal and be healed. Bonus points without superiority or inferiority, but with love. Thank you so much for hyping this video, for subscribing, for liking and sharing your comments and thoughts below. I truly appreciate the community that is gathering here. And until next time, be sure and check these videos up here. And until next time, bye for now.